the eternal variegatedness of the personal nature that Krishna empowers each of us with facilitates bhava, ecstatic love, prema, understanding our eternal relationship with Krishna. So bhakti understands the unity and the variegatedness of our relationship with Krishna and our relationships with each other. When Sachimata explained this bhakti philosophy to Nimai, Nimai smiled and said, "Why did you not teach me this beautiful philosophy before? Now I am completely detached from eating dirt, and I will be very happy to drink your milk." And what is that milk? He's not drinking milk. He's drinking prema. The milk of Yashoda and the milk of Sachi Devi, when we read about it, we should understand it in truth. It is the overwhelming, spontaneous expression of their ecstatic love as a mother for their child. And Krishna is tasting their love. And that milk, because it is prema ras, it's ever increasing in sweetness. And as they are offering their milk, it is ever increasing their love. When Krishna accepts our love grows. And that love only makes Krishna's love grow. Shukadev Goswami tells that when Krishna and Balaram learned how to walk, the first thing they started doing was stealing butter. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Krishna says, everything in this world is coming from me. Everything is my property. Aham sarvasya prabhavam matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvata. If everything belongs to God, what can he steal? But these pastimes are simply about stealing the hearts of his devotees. Kavi Karnapur tells that once Krishna was stealing the butter from one of the pots of Yashoda Mai. And as he was eating the butter, kind of looking around to make sure his mother was not coming, he happened to see a jeweled pillar in front of him. And the reflection of his own form was there in the jeweled pillar. And Krishna saw that and became very concerned. And he started talking to his own reflection as if it were somebody else. This is Leela. He said, "My friend, I know that you're seeing me stealing butter, but please don't tell my mother. I promise you, if you do not tell my mother after I finish eating this butter, I will share it with you, and it's really good." And while he's talking to his own reflection like this, Yashoda Mai is watching from behind him, and she's smiling. It's so sweet. His words are broken like a little child. And as she starts walking up to him, Krishna sees her coming. He said, I didn't steal the butter. I didn't steal the butter. You see the butter? It's on the ground. It wasn't me. It was him. And he pointed to reflection. He said, I told him, don't steal my mother's butter. It's not right. But he didn't listen to me. His mother was very happy. Another time, Yashodamai went out into the outside courtyard, and she left Krishna alone in the house. And he stuck his hand in a butter pot and started to eat it. And she happened to come in when his hand was still in the butter pot. And Krishna immediately, he said, I'm not stealing butter. And she said, what are you doing there? He said, you put these bangles on me that have rubies, and they're so hot, they're burning my hands and they're burning my wrists. So just to get some relief, I stuck it in my hands in the butter. And Yashodamai took his hand out of the pot, and she looked at it. And in her motherly love, she said, oh, Gopal, it's true. Your hands are burnt. I will take off the ruby bangles. And she started kissing his hands. And Krishna and his friends would go to the gopis' houses. And the gopis, they were so charmed. The only reason they churned butter was with the hope that Krishna would come to steal it. That was the satisfaction of their hearts. Everything was for Krishna's pleasure. But just to taste the sweetness of speaking his pastimes, and just for Yashodamai to taste the sweetness of hearing them, they would come to her to complain against Krishna. They would say, Yashodamai, you are a very respectable lady, and we don't want to say anything inappropriate, but we have to tell you that your son is creating chaos in our homes. In the early morning, with his friends, he unties the calves, and they go and they drink the milk of the mothers, and then we're chasing after the calves and the cows. And then he comes to our houses, and Krishna and his friends, they will eat as much as they desire from our butter pots. And then they will call the monkeys from the forest. And the monkeys will come in our house. And they will feed the monkeys to the full satisfaction until the monkeys can't hold any more butter in their bellies. And then Krishna will take the pots and break them on the floor and throw the butter on the ground and say, this butter is so useless, even monkeys don't want it. And sometimes, in order to protect the butter and yogurt from Krishna and his friends, we put it in pots and hang it high up in the ceiling from ropes. But Krishna and his friends, they get all kinds of boxes and grinding mortars, and they stack them up, and they climb to get the butter. And if it's still too high, Krishna has a special stick that's pointed at the end, and from on top of the crates, he puts a hole in the pot, and the butter comes down, and they drink it and feed it to monkeys. And sometimes when it's dark, because of the jewels you put on Krishna, it lights up and they could see everything. So Yashoda said, then I will not put jewels on him. They said, no, 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 don't do that. Because these children, their own bodies give such beautiful light. They could see everything in the darkness. And sometimes when we hide our butter and yogurt so well that they can't find it, they will go into our temples and pass urine and stool on the floor. Now that is very deep philosophy. I always use this example. My dear friends, brothers, sisters, no offense. How many times in your lives have you passed urine and stool? Do you have any estimation? Does anyone care? Is anyone ecstatically discussing it? Krishna did it 5,000 years ago, one time. And there's 5,000 of us falling in love with Krishna just hearing about it. That is Krishna. He's all attractive. Whatever he does, even the most apparently simple and ordinary things. Mahavishnu exhales, and limitless universes come out of the pores of his body. With a moment glance, he impregnates all those universes with all living entities. And then he activates the universes with time. There are so many incredible stories that we read. Lord Varahadev, he lifted the earth on his nose, on the tusks. But Krishna, everything he did was so normal. In Vrindavan, even the greatest demons that came, he never used a weapon. He would just, in a very ordinary, simple little way, he just, little tiny hand, he would just go and hit them. Or Bakasura, he would just take his little hand and go and pull. This is Vrindavan. Madhurya Dham. Where even when Krishna passes urine, it's the sweetest thing that melts and charms our hearts forever. So gopis are complaining. And when Krishna's upset because he can't find our butter and yogurt, he goes to our sleeping babies and pinches them and makes them cry. And now look at your little Krishna. He looks so innocent. He looks afraid that you might believe what we're saying. But sometimes we catch Krishna. We actually catch him. Usually he runs away and we can't catch him, but when we do catch him, he smiles. And that smile enchants our hearts so much that we're paralyzed with love for him, and he runs away. And other times we say, Krishna, you're a thief. And he smiles and he says, no, you're a thief. Now he looks so innocent, but we know in his heart he's just strategically planning of how he will steal butter from our houses tomorrow. when our hearts become as soft as freshly churned butter, Krishna will steal our hearts. Makhan chor. It was the ultimate joy of the life of the gopis, just awaiting Krishna to come to their homes to accept their offerings in such a beautiful pastime. And I'm remembering when Nimai was a little boy, a student, the residents of Navadvip would come to complain to Sachi Devi and Jagannath Mishra about him. This is when he was going to school. After school, every day with his friends, Nimai would go to the Ganga. And they would spend about 6 hours playing. And how would they play? One day, some of the Brahmins came and they told Jagannath Mishra, please hear what we have to say. We're seriously worried about your son. We go to the Ganga to perform sacred ceremonies. We're Brahmins. That's the place where we do our meditation and puja. One Brahmin said, when I'm meditating, Nimai will jump on my shoulders and say, I am Shiva, and break my meditation. Another said, I'm meditating, and Nimai will come underwater and get right in front of me and spray from his mouth Ganga water all over my face. He spit on me. I'm a Brahmin, he spit on me. Another said, you know, we're trying to do our puja, and he kicks the water and splashes all over us. And somehow or other, after we take our holy bath, when we come out of the water, he throws sand all over us. And then we have to go back in to wash the sand off. And then as soon as we come out, he and his friends will throw the sand back at us. And we try to catch him, and he dives underwater and swims away and escapes. He does this every day. One Brahmin said, I was half submerged in the holy river Ganga, and I was chanting my Gayatri mantra, and suddenly from underwater, Nimai grabbed my feet and pulled me underwater. Another said, I was reading my Bhagavad Gita, and Nimai stole it away from me. And do you know what else he does? The men bathe in one ghat, the ladies bathe in another ghat. Nimai and his friends, while the ladies are taking their bath and while we're taking our baths, secretly they put the men's clothes on the ladies' side and the ladies' clothes on the men's side. We come out of the Ganga and there's saris. The ladies come out of the Ganga and there's kopans. Something like that. And dhotis. And he does this every day. Jagannath Mishra, he was very much affected by these Brahmins. He said, 6 hours every day he does this. He doesn't leave the water. What will happen to him as he grows up? And then the girls, little girls, they approached Sachi Devi and said, you are a respectable mother for all of us, and we don't want to complain. But if we tell our parents what your son does, they're going to really have a fight with you. We're little girls. We take our bath in the Ganga. As soon as we come out, Nimai and his friends throw sand all over our bodies. So we have to bathe again and again and again. And sometimes after we take our bath, he takes very sticky okada seeds and throws them in our hair. Another little girl said, she's just a little girl. She said, your Nimai said, I want to marry you. And we do pujas. Because it's our tradition. To get a good husband, we do puja to Lord Vishnu. So we have our little altar set up on the bank of the Ganges, and we have sweets, and we have flowers, and we take water from the Ganges, and we go in to take our bath before we do our puja. And while we're in their Ganges, Nimai sits on the little throne of Vishnu and eats all the sweets and puts all the flowers and garlands in his hair around his neck. And we say, what are you doing? Do you have no respect for Vishnu? And he says, I am that Vishnu. Just keep bringing everything to me. If you do, I will bless you, that you will have a loving, caring, handsome husband and wonderful, learned, healthy children. Just give me more of your offerings. And then some of the girls got really afraid and they started running away. And Nimai called to them, if you don't come back and give me your offerings, then you will have very ugly, aged husbands with 4 co-wives and useless children. So the girls would run back and give all of it. Said, what could we do? We come back and give him all our garlands and all of our sweets and all of our other offerings. And he eats everything. But the girls were so happy complaining. And the Brahmins were so happy complaining. And Mother Sachi just embraced them and said, yes, yes, I will talk to Nimai. Thank you. But Jagannath Mishra was really angry. And he picked up a stick and went to the Ganga to give a good lesson to Nimai. But all the girls, the little girls, they went running from a different direction. And they saw Nimai with his friends in the Ganga, and they said, Nimai, your father's coming, escape, escape. And Nimai smiled, and he told his other friends, if my father asks, tell him that from school I went directly home and I didn't take the road to the Ganga. And then Nimai disappeared. And a few seconds later, Jagannath Mishra arrives, and he's looking in all directions. And he says, where is Nimai? And the little children said, he didn't come to the Ganga today. He went by another direction home. And the Brahmins, the same ones that complained, they came to Jagannath Mishra and they said, you and Sachi Devi are the most fortunate people in the entire creation to have Nimai as your son. We were only complaining out of love. And Jagannath Mishra embraced all those Brahmins and said, please bless my son. Please forgive him if he's done anything wrong and give him your blessings. And meanwhile, Jagannath Mishra came home and he's telling Sachi And then Nimai arrives. His hair is completely dry. In fact, it has dust all over it. His body is completely dry. He even has ink spots from being in school on his hands. And Jagannath Mishra said, "Why are you causing so much disturbance? Don't you have respect for the Brahmins? And you're eating the offerings of Lord Vishnu." He said, No, I didn't even go to the Ganga today. Don't you see? I just came from school." And then he smiled. And he said, "But if they are complaining against me when I didn't even go there, then I will go there and I will show them." And then he ran to the Ganga. And when he arrived, all his friends were waiting for him, and he dove in, and they said, "Nimai, you are so intelligent." And he began his leelas again. And Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi, they were wondering, how is it possible that he came, there wasn't, it's impossible for him to be so dry with dust on his body and just coming from school. Who is our son? But he's just our son. And we love him. One of the gopis actually caught Krishna stealing her butter. And she grabbed Krishna by the hand and said, "I'm taking you to Yashoda Mai." Because every time we come to her, they say, "Well, you always complain, but you can't prove it." Today, I'm going to prove it. You have butter on your face, you have butter on your hands, and I have you, and I'm going to take you to your mother. And little Gopal smiled at her and said, "I warn you, do not take me to my mother." And this older gopi, she was actually the wives of one of Nanda Maharaj's brothers, Upananda. She brought little Gopal in front of Mother Yashoda and started complaining. She said, "Yashoda Mai, just see. Now you should believe us. I caught him. There's butter all over him, my butter, and this is your son." And Yashoda Mai was looking at him and turned to the gopi and said, Yashoda Mai said, "I don't understand. That's not my son." And the gopi looked down, and she was holding the hand of her own son. Yashoda Mai said, "Your own son is stealing your butter, and you're blaming Krishna." She was bewildered. She walked away. And she's holding the hand of her son. And as they go down the road, the son laughs. And she looks down, and it's Krishna, who manifested the form of her son. And Krishna looked at her and said, "I warned you. Next time you do it, I will take the form of your husband." Should I continue or end? I think I should end and continue tomorrow. Because if I continue, I don't know what will happen. But I'll continue. Tomorrow is Diwali. the Festival of Lights, the celebration of Lord Ramchandra returning after 14 years of exile with Sita and Lakshman to Ayodhya, and the celebration of the love of the lamps of the love of all the inhabitants of Ayodhya to welcome Ram home after long separation. On that day, Yashoda Mai decided to personally churn butter for Krishna. And I'm going to make this brief because it's late. But out of 900,000 cows under the care of Nanda Maharaj, the very, very best cows that gave the best milk, she would feed them the most luscious grass that she would water with the milk of those best cows. And the grass smelled so sweet with the fragrance of lotus flowers. And she took that essence of all milk and personally, with her own motherly love, was churning it. And she was churning the yogurt. It was early morning. Krishna was sleeping. And because she was doing it for Krishna, she was remembering Krishna. She was singing a beautiful kirtan describing the qualities, the beauty, the sweetness, the pastimes of her Gopal. And as she was singing, her motherly love was awakening in so many beautiful ways. Milk started flowing from her breasts. Her bangles were keeping a beautiful rhythm to the kirtan. Her hair was loosening, flowers were coming down. She was completely absorbed. The essence of samadhi. Not only to be totally absorbed in the single remembrance of the beauty and sweetness and the love of Krishna, but it was active samadhi, to do something for the pleasure of Krishna. This is Vrindavan Bhakti. Krishna, while he was laying in his bed, he could feel the motherly love for Yashoda, and he became hungry to receive it. So he jumped out of the bed, and he ran to the place where Yashoda Mai was churning, and he stood right between the churning rod and his mother. I am thirsty for your love. And he jumped on Yashoda Mai's lap and began to drink her milk. Suddenly, in the next room, there was milk being boiled on the stove, and it started boiling over. That was that very special milk, Padma Ganda milk, that was meant specifically for Krishna's satisfaction. So Yashoda Mai put down Krishna for a moment to run to take the milk off the fire. But while she was gone, Krishna wanted to show how he yearned for her undivided attention. So with a stone for grinding spices, he broke the clay pot and started eating it. And then he went to the next room, and there was butter hanging from the ropes, and he took a wooden grinding mortar and climbed on top of it and took that butter and started eating it. And then he called his friends. and fed it to them. He called them monkeys who jumped in from the forest. He was feeding all of them. And meanwhile, he was very, very apparently fearful, looking side by side to make sure his mother was not approaching. Yashoda Mai came to where she left Krishna, and there the pot of yogurt was broken. And she saw these little yogurt footprints. And she trailed them into the courtyard where she saw Krishna on the grinding mortar feeding the monkeys and the children. And she picked up a little stick and she quietly approached Krishna from behind. But when the monkeys saw Yashoda Mai coming, they started jumping out in all directions away and running away, and the children, the cowherd boys, were running away, and Krishna looked side by side, and he saw right behind him his mother. He jumped off the grinding mortar to escape. Yashoda ran after him. He ran, she ran, and he ran, and she ran. How can you catch the absolute truth? Even the greatest scholars who know Vedanta, even the greatest yogis who have mystic perfections and siddhis, you cannot catch God. But Yashoda Mai was chasing after him. And as she was running, she was getting more and more tired, and her sari was loosening, and her hair was loosening. And ultimately, conquered by the love of his devotee, he agreed to be caught by her. She was holding his hand, and she showed him the little stick and said, Krishna, why did you steal the butter? Because you associate with monkeys, you have become like a monkey. And Krishna, he said, I won't do it again. Please put down the stick. Yashoda Mai never used the stick except to show it. She threw it away. And Krishna was crying. In the Damodarastaka, Satyavrat Muni tells the beautiful story of the description. The kajal, the black ornament or cosmetic that Yashoda Mai puts on Krishna's eyes, his tears were mixing with them, and it was making streaks across his beautiful little body. His lips were quivering. His limbs were trembling in fear of Mother Yashoda. Yashoda Mai had so many things to do that day, and to protect Krishna from mischief, she took a really soft rope, one that's used for calves, to tie Krishna to the grinding mortar. But when she put it around his little waist, it was the distance of 2 fingers, or about 2 inches, too short. She tied more rope to that. It was exactly 2 inches too short. More rope until all the rope in her house, the rope was getting longer and longer and longer, and Krishna's little waist was the same size, but still it was 2 inches too short. This was incredible. Soon other gopis from other houses was bringing all the beautiful different colored silk ropes that they had in their houses. And they were all helping Yashoda Mai. It was a festival of ropes. They were all tying and tying and tying, and she would put it around, and it was 2 fingers too short. And this was going on. And Yashoda Mai was really, really working hard, and so were all the other gopis. And one gopi said to Yashoda Mai that it doesn't appear to be Krishna's destiny to be tied up today. And Yashoda Mai said, as his mother, I must protect him. And besides that, I really want to see how much rope it will take to go around my little son's belly. When Krishna saw the incredible enthusiasm, determination in the love of his mother, he allowed himself to be bound. The enthusiastic efforts of the devotee and the causeless mercy of the Lord. That is what those two fingers represent. The determined enthusiasm efforts of us. When it is done sincerely, our devotional service, it attracts Krishna's mercy. And Krishna is bound. He is controlled by the love of his devotee. Yashoda Mai then, feeling Krishna was protected, she left that place. And Krishna looked in front of him and was thinking, because my mother has done this to me, I will even cause more mischief. And he had a strategic plan, which we will discuss tomorrow. Thank you very much.